today is to talk about corrosion in general and why we would want to talk about this with a customer, what the price is for the customer, what we would actually be doing, and how to do what we would be doing. All right, your turn.
So, got the flyer for everybody and laminated it. And I've also got some folders, so we can actually start making these and put them in those folders, and then you've got, accessory brochure, so to speak, that you can have. So corrosion prevention, coastal areas encounter faster corrosion. We're in a coastal area, so we're gonna experience faster corrosion. I know y'all have seen it too. 6-month marker, some coals are already rusted out. Salt spray can travel many miles inland. Again, we're right by the coast, so we're affected by that. Coils experience extreme temperatures, wet environments, high pressures, and volatile organic compounds that can react with the metals. Thomas, I know you just saw one, no fresh air coming in, spray foamed attic, super tight. Coil was just replaced a year ago and it's already completely rusted out again. Corrosion prevention helps to protect major components from premature failure. And the corrosion protection for the indoor is $275. The corrosion protection for the outdoor with a grenade is $375. You can split it up like that, or you can do it as the whole package. I also want them to do the whole package because that's what's being effective, but if they had to pick or choose, we have that option too. Alright, now on the back, if you look, there's actually a step-by-step instruction sheet for kind of how this goes down, what we need, and how to make it happen. So obviously step number 1 is going to be remove power from the unit. We want everything to be completely off, no chance of it coming back on. Coils need to be dry.
How can we dry a coil out if it's in the middle of summertime?
Heat. Throw it in heat. Wear respirator mask, gloves, and eye protection, which we have for you guys. If you ever, use it and you need another one, just listening. Corrosion grenade to be installed on the suction line of the outdoor line set close to the unit, and we'll show here in just a second where all that goes.
When we leave here, make sure you have all the sizes. They come in different sizes.
Yeah.
So
You
make
got
sure you
different
have
size line sets, so the grenades come in different sizes as well. Clear coating, outdoor condenser coil, shake the can for 2 minutes minimum. So that's one of the things that they specify in their instructions too. Make sure that can gets a shake for at least 2 minutes, and then make sure everything's mixed like it's supposed to be. Spray the accessible end plates and coat liberally. Allow 5 minutes minimum to set, and then coat it again. So shake the can for 2 minutes, spray it on there, make sure it's coated well. Let it sit for at least 5 minutes so it's got time to set. It's not going to cure in that amount of time, but it should at least get to a tacky kind of dry point. Once it gets there, spray it again, and then you're good. So once it gets those 2 coats, in a rare instance you may need a third one, but 2 coats should coat everything just fine. The blue coating, indoor coil, same thing. Shake can for 2 minutes minimum, spray accessible end plates, coat liberally, allow 5 minutes to set, then coat again. And then we use the dielectric grease. We're going to use the dielectric grease to coat the wiring terminals. Nothing else, just the wire terminals. And then the board coating spray, coat the board and go from top to bottom. Repeat the application 3 additional times from multiple different directions, and then allow it to cure for 5 minutes on a minimum before you hook it back up and put power to it. It does take at least 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours, according to the MSDS sheets and all, for it to fully set and cure. But the 5 minute point time is where they say, okay, you put everything back together. So, make sure you've allotted enough time during each step. Check your work to ensure proper application. So once you finish up with everything, just go back and make sure everything's setting well, looks good. Make sure your application went like it was supposed to. Once you perform the quality control check, then you can turn the power back onto the unit and make sure everything's going to operate. So, go ahead.
Question.
I was going to say, I think we all need to be on board, on the same page about where you actually spray the coating. I know you said here end plates. That's great. I've seen where some of you guys have done the coil coating and you actually sprayed the fins of the coil where it's all aluminum. And plates. So those are the most critical
Yeah.
parts, I believe.
Yeah.
Everybody on board?
So with this stuff, it's in plates for the actual coil itself. I mean, to get a good application, you know, you would have to cut the coil out,
Yeah.
take it outside, and actually, you know, use
Yeah.
which we have one. We have that machine that we can hair site coat stuff with, but that's a different level of coating.
Yeah, we're talking about a unit that's installed. We're not planning on pulling the coil out of the unit.
Yeah.
Now, in some applications, I've seen where you can, just depends on what the line set's doing, you can slide them out an inch or two, enough to where you can get back there and put a little bit of a coat on the backside. Some of them you can't do that to at all.
Yeah. And that's why it's the accessible in place. If it's set up to where we can, you know, pull the coil out enough to get that back portion, great. If it's a tight space and there's no extra line set, or it's, you know, it's gonna kink up if you move anything, we get what we can get. So we get what is accessible. If we have to cut the coil out and, you know, take it outside, then that's a whole different setup.
Can I add one to that, just in case, so everybody understands, if you are moving that coil, be careful with drain. Don't crack the pan. It's easier probably to cut it and put a coupling on it than it is to slide it out and crack the pan, or the drain line.
Yeah, well, I did one recently and I told them, I said, it's gonna smell bad in here for a minute. We'll open some windows, let it air out as we're doing it. And they were like, well, we gotta run errands anyway, so they split.
In this particular application, we got room.
So this coil is not being held in by any clips, it doesn't appear. And we're gonna clear that bar. That's about as far as you know, wanna go that tipping.
If you want to, one of you guys want to put on the corrosion grenade and show how to do that while we're getting the cans ready.
Everybody wants one, I'll pick it up. Nice. So, what is that, what does that grenade do? What's its purpose, Thomas?
Keeps the corrosion from spreading on the line set.
What's it made of?
That I forgot about.
Zinc.
Zinc.
Zinc is a weaker base metal.
I always tell customers, if you ever notice on the side of big ships, you'll see like these balls that are cut in half and bolted to the side of the ship. And that's what they are, same thing. The sacrificial,
Anode.
yeah, anode, that's the word.
See them on boat motors too.
Yep.
Outdoor boat motors, indoor boat motors,
And as y'all can see, these are pretty straightforward. It's just screw, take it out, put it over the line set, screw it back on.
blinded. That's the right side. Nice. Smart.
So this is the female end, and if you got a clean finger, I do, because I haven't been working today yet. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. And if you just kind of fill these holes up, now what you want to do is put it back in its clip. You get that side view there. There we go. And don't clip it in all the way, just kind of slide it in and out a few times. That'll kind of move that, slide that grease onto the male posts that are in there. And then click it in. Boom. And then you got one more back here. It's gonna be a little tougher to get in. There we go.
So, Mr. Ryan, will that cause an electrical short, putting that grease on there?
If you used enough of it and it went from the terminal all the way to a ground, a metal spot on the motor, yeah, it could. You'd have to like really shoot a couple gallons of it in here probably for that to happen, huh?
Sure.
Just making sure it gets down in that hole. Same process, kind of going back and forth with it a little bit before I click it in. There we go. Power, of course, is off. We're good. So you just take that wire, nice coat on there. Apply it back to the breaker here. And you should be able to come and check these in years and they still be nice and shiny. And you would repeat the process if you would like on this other side too, and to the molded plugs up here to the board as well, because you will get a little bit of, you got some small holes here and here that will allow a little bit of moisture to get up into this cabinet, but this is where most of the moisture will be. Now what I do, I think this, where these tubes are hitting this plate, this flat part, that's really the crucial spot. So you really want to just get up in there and really make sure like this. Try to concentrate on that back plate. And you guys kind of come in and kind of move around.
Okay.
See how much thicker that is now?
Yeah.
Which say, Mr. Ryan, don't be afraid to use it.
Yeah, that roll. Really.
Let that dry for how long?
5 minutes, at least 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
And then recoat again?
Yep, yeah, can do more coat.
Two more coats.
I guess, Mr. Ryan, would it be beneficial while you have that coil there to look at those cap tubes to make sure that they're not in there, inspect them as far as rubbing? You know, a lot of times leaks happen to form on those.
Yeah, because I don't want to touch it now, but
Right.
you can definitely separate them some. But you just don't want to bring them out over the pan edge.
Sure.
They don't give you a whole lot of flavoring.
All right, so for time's sake, we would coat that a couple more times, let it dry. What's next?
And if we're going to do the circuit board, we would need
the can together.
Well, we also need some wheel nose to get the board loose. You gonna do what? So there's two more clips back there we have to come off. But that's the side you would want to coat right there with the side of all those circuits on it. Make sure power's off.
I'm sorry, what was that last safety thing, Mr.
Make sure the
Ryan?
power's off.
Oh, absolutely. Make sure the power's off.
That's it.
So you do it how many times?
4 altogether.
4 times altogether. Gotcha.
You don't have to let it dry every time. Yeah, well, no, you don't have to let it dry every time. It says do that first coat, and then go ahead and hit it from a few different directions just to make sure it hits all the angles. And then you let it set for 5 minutes, and you can give it in there.
So if this unit was laying in a right horizontal or left horizontal position, would we still just, depending at that circuit board's on the top versus on the bottom, would we still use it there, Mr. Ryan? Would that be a good application, or just all good?
That's a good question. All the circuitry's on the back of the board. Stan, if I do dig, have some good input on this. I don't think there's anything on that front as far as connectivity except for the plugs that would need to be spray coated.
Sure. Yeah, I know in the past, I know some of the circuitry on different models sitting lower to the bottom, and
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced condensation, or if the
Yeah.
unit quarterbacks up into.
On the circuit board, it's not really rust that we're worried about. It is running condensation. If that condensation builds in that board, and a drip of moisture or water droplet runs down the back of that board and shorts that thing to ground, boom, it's burnt. You know, so that's what this will protect it from.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good
So,
idea.
in that theory, there could possibly be a short from the front side. So maybe it's a good idea.
Sure.
But you don't want to get that stuff down those plugs where the connectors have to go in everywhere. So you need to keep it all plugged in when you do it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
For other manufacturers, what you would do is obviously make sure there's power off to the unit. Take the top off, set it to the side, and you'll see where everything beats up. And it'll have end plates, just like you have on your evaporator board.
Yeah, you'd have one run down right here and one right here. So it'd be very easy. You remove the fan, coat it, that'd be right
And it's the exact same process. Spray those end coat, end plates. Make sure it's coated well. Let it sit for 5 minutes. Spray it again, and then let it sit for 5 minutes. Put the top back on. Put power back to it.
Is there a way for us to determine whether or not end plate, stamp plate is too far gone, or what? Or is that
I think
judgment call?
Yes, a
what would you guys
judgment
say?
call, but as y'all can see, I mean, that's a prime candidate. If that thing's covered in rust, there's flakes all in the pan, and the drain line stained red, it's probably too far gone.
Sure. Yeah, because I'm sure we'll probably run into one, and I just want to make sure that we use good judgment, not waste the consumer.
And I think too, in the selling of this, I mean, you got to be upfront with the customer. Hey, look, this is to hopefully prevent a problem. We don't know.
Sure.
It's not a guaranteed thing. You know what I mean? We can't guarantee you that if you pay this $275 that you're never going to have a refrigerator. It's going to happen eventually. Hopefully, this will slow down the process.
Perfect.
So why does this benefit customers?
If you want to save money,